Thanks for everybody joining. Hopefully you're all excited for a hybrid event. And so we just kind of want to go over what those technology settings are on the back end and get you prepared for success for 2021. So again, I'm Matt Sinclair. I'm here with RunSignup, and I love getting people set up on their races and helping them work through any type of complex solutions. And Sean is providing color commentary today, so he'll jump in and help me out as well. Today's topics, we want you to get it right from the start. So in 2020, we saw a lot of shuffling of settings, shuffling of data, and we also deployed a lot of new features to help in that crunch time earlier in the spring. So we want you to get everything set up properly right from the start. And so we'll go over what things you want to separate for your hybrid event, the settings that you want to combine, and then we'll also touch back on some best practices for virtual and kind of how to message your hybrid race. So getting it right from the start, again, in 2020, you didn't have any reason to suspect that you might be transitioning to virtual, and that created some complications with moving people and transferring to a virtual event or setting things up last minute. So this time, while we hope everything will go off without a hitch, there might be some complications. So we want to provide you maximum flexibility right from the start. And so we've come up with a lot of different options that we recommend. We're going over the 99% rule, although I like to argue I would probably go as far as to say 100% of all races should follow these. So if you have a scenario where you think that this wouldn't be the best fit for you, I'd love to hear it. But we want people to set up separate events for their in-person live option and then a separate event for their virtual option. So the example here, you have a 5K and a 10K traditionally. Just like you would have a separate event for the 5K and a separate event for the 10K, you would do the same with the virtual and options for both the 5 and 10. And you'll see those reasons in future slides. So we have a lot of flexible participant management features, and it's really important to consider turning these on. So the basic message is you want people to be confident that they'll get something for their money. And you do that by letting them know what will happen in case there's changes that come up. Or they might limit their ability to participate. And so by offering flexible options, they could either transfer different events or transfer different races and things like that. So we're even seeing more procrastination from runners, waiting to the very last minute to register. So anything that you can do to get people to register early is going to be good for your event. So the participant management, it's key for people to getting to commit, but we want to make sure that you've thought through like any financial obligations that might come up. Don't promise refunds if you're not of ability to afford refunds, but be as flexible as you can and be transparent with your participants from the start, because a lot of this is about rebuilding trust to get people to come back to your race and put their money down early. So some of these options to highlight is your event transfer settings, being able to transfer back and forth from in-person to virtual, being able to defer. A lot of people probably used our cancel pop-up tool to defer runners to next year. We have lots of tools to get people in via defer, via transfer settings. And if you have more than one race, you do have the option to give people the ability to transfer to a later race in the season. So let's go over the settings to separate, just like we set up the separate events for our in-person race and for our virtual. The event dates and location. Now, the hybrid race kind of customizes and shows both the date and location of everything that you set up in the wizard. But there's options that you can change both in the way that you set up the event, as well as how to get people directions to where the in-person setting is. So the miscellaneous settings page is where you would go to customize the date. Most times people have their virtual take place over the course of a week or maybe 10 days. So you don't want the date of your race to necessarily say the whole range. Maybe you still want to highlight the in-person race. As well as the race location. You want to specify that the in-person race is going to be here, but the virtual race can be run anywhere. So once you set up a race, by default, when you look at your race website, this example is the Vancouver Trail Run. So if you've seen the presentation on building a race website, you kind of be familiar with this. And the default for this virtual race takes place over a week. And so the date has the full date range. And then there's also the actual city and state location, or in this case, it's Canada for the overall race. And you want to kind of build the settings together so virtual participants kind of feel included and they don't have to necessarily travel to that particular location. And those are based off of, step 1 in the race wizard. Here's the default setting, again, based off of what you've set up in the race wizard. It both has the location that you entered as well as directions to the map. And so we'll see how to kind of customize those to kind of highlight the virtual option as well as the in-person here. So that miscellaneous settings page, again, you use your race dashboard. You can type in MISC and you just start typing anything in the dashboard and it'll pull up the setting for that. So this is under the race tab under race website, and you go to miscellaneous settings, and a little bit down the page, there's an option to allow a custom date range. And this is actually text. So you can replace it literally with anything. It doesn't even have to be a date if you don't want to. And some people would prefer to write out Saturday completely, or APR for short for April. You can literally write up whatever you want. And this allows you to highlight the in-person race date on the race website that you're promoting.
I want to point out the small gray box on the left-hand side as the best navigation tool for any race director. Always use it.
Definitely. Yeah, the race location, again, you just start typing in the word location. That's going to be found under the race tab under race website and race location. There's a couple different settings here that you kind of want to look over. One is the custom location description. And so that would replace what you have and shows under the place setting, or it shows above the map where you have the directions. So in this example, I've written that the in-person race starts at the location, and then you can't see in the screenshot, but it also says virtual run with a hashtag for our virtual run. We want to show the directions to the race because this is an in-person race. With virtual, you might have been hiding this setting. So that's something that you want to double check for your 2021 race, that the directions are available. And then because you're adding a custom location description, you can hide the place section because otherwise it's going to duplicate the text. So let's take a look at what everything looks like with our customization. So we have our miscellaneous settings updating to put our custom text, and we've hidden the actual location. So it doesn't show the city and state on the race. Again, this is all optional. You might have a virtual run that's more localized, and it's fine to keep that, or you might have expanded your horizons and allow the virtual run to be anywhere. And then as we scroll down the page, the directions, again, we've hidden the place section, but that custom location description now shows directly above the map. Again, you can add any type of information here, maybe just a highlight to like stop in at the check-in booth, look for the orange sign, whatever you want to add custom verbiage here. And we've also highlighted that you can virtually run anywhere with a hashtag that you can plan on. Again, very customizable in the settings. So now that we've kind of looked at the settings at the overall race, let's kind of look at event level settings. The first thing that I definitely recommend is going to be your event-specific confirmation emails. Again, under the race tab, under notifications, there's multiple different options. You can just set up any general notifications. You can actually customize what the email banner and things look like. And there's a section that is already split out the content based off the event somebody registers for. So an in-person race, some of the details that you want to include in the confirmation email would obviously be the location where they're going to, what the corral times are for safe social distancing, links to any guidelines or protocols, the deadline process for doing any event transfers if they decide that they would prefer to transfer to virtual, and always packet pickup information, as much information as you can get, links to your FAQ pages, things like that. And again, if they register for the virtual race, you can customize what that confirmation email looks like by using that event specific, giving them just how a virtual race works, the dates and times for when they can submit, when they're going to be able to transfer into the in-person race, as well as shipping expectations and things of that nature. So again, shown here in the race dashboard, you just start typing in the word confirmation. We have the general settings page, that's every notification in the system, and then we have event-specific information. So if you have multiple different events, you can customize what that verbiage is in that confirmation email. Another thing that's great to do is the registration follow-up email. So you first have to set this up under email marketing, and that's under our automated email section in the registration follow-up. So you do have to turn it on first. Once you turn it on, that allows you to kind of drill into it to customize it. You can select the intervals, say 3 days after somebody registers, 7 days, things like that. And that allows you to, kind of get people, amped up for the race and just let them know specific stuff. For in-person races that deal with referrals, we definitely recommend registration follow-ups to encourage people to share and recruit their friends and family to earn rewards. For fundraising type of races, the messaging around here is to give tips and tricks on, how to share social media, how to help raise more money, what the good cause is, and to constantly share their donation pages. So those are different options. You can also, slowly lead into a virtual race of like, hey, we're going to have a costume contest or pictures you can share, just little stuff like that that you don't want to be too annoying with it, but it's nice to kind of set up something to encourage the reach of your event, sponsor exposure, things like that. So let's kind of look at the advanced setup a little bit, because we might want to customize specific information based off of if they're on the in-person or not. So once you've set up the basics, when you drill into the customize option of the follow-up email at the top, most races have the default simple setup turned on. You will need to switch and use the advanced setup, and that allows you to set up special campaigns just for the events. And you'll see the screenshot here. This right now is setting up a registration follow-up email that's specific to the in-person run, because we've added the 10-mile trail run and the 50-mile trail run events, and we haven't added any other events. And so for each different campaign, you will need to set up multiple follow-up emails. So after I set this one up, I'd kind of basically follow the same protocol as setting up my 3 or 7 day reach out, and then I would choose just the virtual events. So again, just some best practices. You can set up a series of email to highlight the main calls of action. It's basically your own drip campaign. And you want to keep things concise and consistent. You don't want to overwhelm people because you don't want to necessarily annoy people, sending too many emails and have them unsubscribe from any potential future follow-up and important messaging. Some other event level settings separate is corrals. Corrals are important for in-person races to create waves and social distance starting lines, and they're generally not needed for virtual events. This basically asks a custom question during registration, what's your estimated finish time, or just straight up choose your corral because it doesn't matter. I've had plenty of conversations with timers, and it's actually best to get the maximum distance if you just randomize the starting waves. You don't necessarily start all the fastest people for maximum social distance, because they're all going to be running together for a majority of the race, kind of packed up in groups. But talk to your timer before setting up corrals, because it may interact with their scoring software to make sure that they can get the proper starting reads, things like that. But this is, again, is under our corrals. Just type in the word corral in the race dashboard, and you'll notice that's under our race day tools section under corrals. You can build different areas. You can assign them from the back end, or you can auto assign them as people kind of register and pick their own corrals. And then there's plenty of reporting options so you can see to make sure they're basically all of average amounts for each corral.
To follow up on that as well, Johanna had mentioned in the previous kickoff meeting that we may require a little more work. Corrals is something, depending on the number of release times you'll have, that you may be spending some time setting those up in the front end. So plan
Absolutely.
ahead.
Yep, definitely plan ahead with a conversation with your timer, absolutely. Some more event level settings. This is a kind of a question, whether are you going to ship or not ship? It kind of depends. With virtual, there were some races that offered local pickup, but there was some virtual that it was shipping only. And you can kind of mix the two. So there's different pros and cons to each approach. So you kind of want to look through what you want your overall approach to be. But we do have lots of shipping features to kind of help ensure that if you do need to collect a shipping address, that you're going to get the valid information. And again, you just start typing in the word shipping in the dashboard, and it's going to pull up. Participants can go through and update their shipping address, or you can customize the shipping settings. And so just real quick on the shipping setup, depending on what you have, we have different options to require or ask shipping either at the event level, if they've chosen an add-on or not, even specific add-ons and specific options within add-ons. Same with the store options, multiple kind of options to collect the exact information that you want. One thing that we recommend, kind of like you see on the left-hand screenshot, is you can create an add-on, and the name of the add-on is what their swag option is. And the swag choices for, like, it's a required add-on that everybody must choose, and they are forced to pick, I'm going to show up at packet pickup, which obviously would be free, or no, I want to pay $10, $15, whatever your shipping option is, and they choose to ship their swag. And now you have these custom shipping options that if I chose packet pickup, I'm going to continue through registration without being prompted for a shipping address. But now that I've specifically said my swag option is to ship it to myself, that way I'm going to be prompted for my valid USPS address. So some of the advanced settings with this, like I mentioned, you can require that this is only US addresses, and you can standardize the address. So if I typed in, the full street name or what have you, the United States Postal Service has like their automatic barcodes to make it easier for the machines to pick up and make sure it goes to the right place. You can allow shipping outside of the United States if you want. We don't do any validation on it if you want to offer that. And we've even have new country shipping charges. So shipping overseas is very expensive. It's easily $20 to $30. And I've even heard up to $100 in some countries, to where you just want to, like, it's not worth it to ship. So you can do a lot of inclusion and excluding based off of geographic shipping fees. And so those are pretty powerful to do. Most people probably ship in the United States, but if you do have international participants, just keep in mind if you want to allow that or not. One of the other last things to keep separate is your result sets. Even though you want to kind of feel like everybody's inclusive and the virtual people are still participating in the event, you really should keep those separate because they're running separate courses. And so the results need to be separate. It's just standard. Your timer will probably also recommend that you do this. But when you set up the event options in RunSignup, you have the run walk option, and then you also have the virtual race / challenge. The event type has to be the virtual race or challenge to even set up virtual results, and it's going to feed into its own separate result sets to keep things open. And that allows your timer to push the in-person results up in real time, doing all of the cool results, email notifications, and things like that for the in-person race. And then also keep their virtual participants getting them their notifications to submit and post their results into a separate leaderboard. And so these settings are under the Race Day Tools tab under Virtual Challenge Results, and then you can configure the virtual results from there. Another thing that you can combine or you can keep separate is the finisher certificates. The reason why you might want to separate these is because the in-person race, you're gonna likely have a time, and so the default shows the clock time here. And so the virtual option, you may have customized your virtual option to be a little bit more inclusive, to not require people to place a time. And so you might want to customize that finisher certificate so it doesn't just say the participant's name and then giant NONE for none, because they didn't put a time in there. That kind of looks bad. So that's why you might want to set these up at the event level to give certain customizations for your in-person race and certain for your virtual. And another thing is, this is also sponsor placement. You can sell sponsors on they're the virtual race sponsor or they're the in-person sponsor. And so you can customize things that way as well to kind of help elevate the different sponsors and elevate the view from what participants can share and things like that. Again, this is under Race Day Tools under the Results section and Customize Finisher Certificate. And the next thing that kind of is like a sister feature to the finisher certificate is our digital bib, since it was kind of built off the same technology. And this is also at the event level setting because you probably have actual real printed bibs with chips on them for your in-person race. And you need to have a digital bib option for your virtual race. That way they can print it out if they want to. They can share on social media to help go viral. Again, the sponsor placement, you can kind of highlight that. And then you don't necessarily have to worry about somebody who's the in-person race. They look themselves up and they print out this digital bib and then show up to the race with the digital bib. And now you need to track them down and get them the actual bib. We also recommend separating your bib ranges as well. So that way it's easy to identify an in-person person by their bib number and a virtual participant by their bib number. And again, under race day tools, under bibs and customized digital bib. So those are settings that we recommend kind of separating, but then let's kind of go over things that you can combine for a holistic race experience. So these are settings that you want to combine across all events to kind of give that cohesive event. So we kind of mentioned that a little bit about the results, that you would think that you would want to kind of keep those together, but you really probably should separate them. And so here are the settings that you should combine to make everybody feel in the same place. And that would be photos. There are still participants, they're still participating both virtually or in person. So by turning on participant uploaded photos, that allows the race photographer at the end who's uploading their photos to the race and participants that are taking selfies on the course. Everything goes right to your website. And so the full race experience, people can view and share smiling faces and different scenery along the course that they've done. We've seen a lot of virtual races do like photo contests or kind of scavenger hunt themed type of things. And so there's been a lot of positive feedback from photo uploads by participants. And again, even if somebody did the in-person race, maybe they had a friend or family member that shared a picture from them along the course where the photographer wasn't, or they just caught him at a good angle and they wanted to share that picture. That allows them to share that part of the experience, whether it's getting ready, preparing for the race, walking up to the line, things like that, in addition to just the photos taken by your photographer or people at the race. Social teams, if you're doing this for basically just kind of increasing participation, this is definitely something that you can combine. If you are scoring teams, you can't realistically or automatically do combined scoring between the in-person and the virtual because the results are separated. So that's the only reason that you might not want to combine these. But if you're doing it for inclusion and having people just join a team together, whether it's for a pricing discount or things like that, you definitely can combine these very easily. The stat here is that 30% of participants join a team when they're available, and we see this even during COVID. So if they're not scored any event, they can join any event, whether it's virtual, the 5K, 10K, and they're joining a team. And again, likely it's just as like a team competition who can get the most people, or you're doing it as a pricing discount. Like after you get 10 people, you get a $5 discount, or you're going to get a pair of socks, or things like that. And these are all found under the participants tab under our groups and teams section. And so one way to kind of get more people to join teams is to incentivize them. You can set up automatic discounts or automatic refunds or both as people join the team. So an example would be, your regular registration was $39 and you get a $5 discount on groups that are more than 5. So basically the first 4 people are going to pay that full fee of $39 because they haven't reached that goal. But as soon as the 5th person registers, you've set up the pricing to where they've already gotten the discount to only pay $34. And as soon as they complete registration, there's an automated $5 refund back to the first 4 people. And then everybody else beyond that gets that $5 discount. So that's an easy way to incentivize people to join together, bring their friends and family to your race, and everybody gets rewarded. So the first 4 people aren't penalized from signing up early. They still get the discount once the team hits that magic number. And you can even set up multiple discounts. So once the team reaches 15 people, you get another $5 discount to everybody. And then our favorite feature is probably referrals and swag rewards. Since your participants are your most effective advocates, you're more likely to do a race because a friend is either doing it or the friend told you about it rather than necessarily seeing an ad. And so giving your participants that power to incentivize and share is going to allow you to kind of grow your race as well. So you can incentivize them for sharing and bringing their friends and family. Refer 5 friends, get a $25 refund. So that's effectively like they got $5 per person, but they have to actually reach that goal of 5 friends before they get a discount. And so that can see really high returns on investment from setting that up. We kind of help you automate this on the last step of the Race Wizard, but you can customize this, based off of what refund threshold you want. You can also add swag, and this is again part of the referral follow-up email that you can send to kind of get people to keep sharing. And then obviously you want to recognize these people that did the most referrals. And this is under our promotion tab in the referral tracking option, mixed with setup. And then my favorite stat of RunSignup is that 100% of RunSignup employees recommend referral rewards. That's definitely the most effective marketing tool, especially when you combine that with swag rewards. Natalie did an awesome webinar that I share all the time, our swag webinar. That's just runsignup.com/swag. And that'll kind of go you through the nuts and bolts that we didn't really cover today in like the nitty-gritty of it, but the basic concept is the more you can refer people to your race, the more you can incentivize them to share with others, and the more people you get to your race. So there's some numbers here that even today we're seeing that the number of registration from referrals is up from about 7% to over 18%, especially in virtual. You might not necessarily register for a virtual run by yourself, but if you're doing it with a bunch of friends, it's highly likely that you're going to do it together. Especially team virtual is a very popular feature to get people to do it. I work with lots of virtual team races, and they seem to have a lot of success and engagement. And we've even seen as high as 40%. And that's obviously you need to be really aggressive to get that type of referral, but it is possible. Other settings that you can combine, because it doesn't matter whether it's in person or virtual, is fundraising. So the cause is the reason for your event, and the reason your participants support your event. So a collective goal can kind of bring everybody together, whether they're participating virtually. I would always recommended in the past to allow fundraising through a virtual event or just standalone fundraising at all, because people might not be able to actually attend your race, and they still might feel very connected to your cause and want to help you raise money. And these settings are under the donation tab under setup, and we've separated these into their own section. So the fundraising tab is now separated, and you can set up individual and team fundraising goals. And to kind of highlight this is you can add a donation thermometer right to your cover page. So if you don't have a cover page yet, definitely recommend setting one up. And if you need help with that, feel free to reach out. Again, that Vancouver trail run kind of screenshot that we had earlier, I did a whole presentation showing you the taking the Vancouver trail run from a basic race website default into a nice looking cover page. And this is a component of that to add a donation goal thermometer that is in real time. As people donate, it slowly tacks up on your goal, and you can move this like at the very top of your page or kind of put it wherever you want to kind of highlight that. All of our cover page features are going to be under the race tab under race website into cover page, and this is specifically called a data component when you're setting that up. And then obviously social media, you want to keep that combined to let people know whether they can run in person or run virtually. Use your Facebook, Instagram, connect with your participants wherever you are. Set up Facebook groups to get people to start talking about and interacting with the event, prior to. Always do hashtags for your event to kind of help it trend and go viral across the social media platforms. Offer contests and engagement. Part of the success of having these challenges is you actually have longer engagement. So by combining these things and getting people to join groups and post training tips and things like that, it allows the extension of your race day to multiple race days. And so that's always a good thing to get more exposure for your charity and your race. And so let's kind of touch on some virtual best practices now that we have a lot more features set out there. These are all going to be under our Go Virtual Hub. If you haven't seen that, it's just runsignup.com/go-virtual. And this is also something that is a feature to separate. So while you have an in-person race, you have different questions, you can customize that specific questions are only asked for the virtual race. And this is just a standard one that they understand and confirm that they actually are registering for the virtual race. That way you just kind of help, to kind of guide the participant. They don't absolutely show up on race day and you don't have information for them because you've already shipped out their shirt and their medal, and you don't have anything for them on race day. And this is under our race tab, under registration and questions. And you'll see the settings here on the right. You just set up a regular question. You have a checkbox, and there's a require option and ask each person that's in the virtual race. And then you can customize this to only be for your virtual options. Other things that we find people wanting to do and not really necessarily knowing where to go is our event display options. And so in the dashboard under race tab, under registration, we have event display options. There's lots of cool things that you can do. This is kind of highlighting the registration event card or the event tile with a little highlight. And so this is our event highlight. So I've added like space limited for the in-person race, and that's because you might have social distancing guidelines still going on, and you might actually have true participant caps. And then we also have our virtual option where you can highlight that it's a virtual race in addition to like naming it virtual. So we've had it highlighted with run anywhere. You can also customize the sign up button. That's under our race theme option. So under the race website and race theme, you can customize sign up to something different like register now. Then once you're in registration path, we have these event display options that show like the swag that they're going to get. And it just kind of helps give that extra pop to the registration to really make the person feel good about their registration, showing them what they're getting with it. So here I'm doing the Run Anywhere virtual trail mile. I got images of the shirts. I'm saying that, hey, my registration, I'm doing a virtual run, but I'm actually getting something tangible for my virtual run. And by highlighting what they're getting for it, it really helps that perceived value of what they're paying for the race, and kind of help complete those conversions. Also have a giveaway description. So this is kind of a newer feature where we actually allow you to have a full detailed description, and it's always good. People like images. I can't tell you how many races I've tested, registered for, and I go through and it's just selecting a shirt option. I have no idea what the shirt is. That's a really big draw to your race. It's a marketing opportunity. It's showing people like what they're actually getting. It gets them excited about the event and things like that. So you can put in a registration description and show off the front and back of the shirt. So it's just one image upload, but you'll see here on the right, it's kind of combined into one type of marketing image to show off the front and the back. You can even kind of splice the images together if you have a sizing chart, or now you can actually write down the additional details of what the sizes are. And this is under our race tab, under giveaways/add-ons, under giveaway. And you also want to definitely set up virtual results if you're going to have a virtual race. Now you can have virtual results, outside of the system, but our virtual results platform, I think, is hands down, second to none, and that means that it's the best. So under the virtual options, you go to race day tools, virtual/challenge results, under configure virtual results, and we now have this nice kind of left to right buttons with a nice little icon to let you know if virtual results are currently enabled. It might be yellow because it's not accepting yet, or it might be red because your submission period is over, but it kind of gives you a quick glance of what you've set up, and then you can drill into the virtual results settings to customize what they can submit, different activity types if you needed to track or limit any type of activities. You can set up notifications in the virtual system, but if you have lots of races, it might be easier to just combine that into a single email using our email marketing system instead. If you're doing a challenge, 100% recommend setting up goals and milestones for gamification. And you can also customize details to kind of help people know what they're actually submitting. The details is the results description. So when I'm posting results, I know that I'm posting to a specific challenge, especially if you have multiple different events going on. Again, this is the settings for this are under our Go Virtual Hub. And if you're setting up a challenge, I encourage you to check out the Challenge Platform Hub as well. And here's just what the front end looks like for submitting virtual results. I get a lot of questions that people are setting it up on the back end, but they don't actually go through and submit results for their own event. So when you go to the results tab, there's going to be a submit virtual results button, which will take you to the participant tracking just to look up who we're submitting for. And you just type in your name and then you submit the results for it. So this is an example of just submitting a race. So I'm assuming that I'm running the 8K and I can submit my time. And you can set up, what the range is. Obviously, you don't want people to say that they did a 15-minute 8K, but they might be running or walking 15-minute miles. So you can set up the different pace options to get valid times that people are entering. There is also an option to say I finished, but I didn't submit my time. Again, that kind of harkens back to our separating of the finisher certificate. So you might want to customize it unless you're requiring time for everybody. That way, right in the middle of the finisher certificate by default, will have their time. And so here are some of those options, just kind of highlighting that if you want to kind of make things more inclusive for virtual athletes, there is the option to allow participants that they completed but didn't provide an actual time. They'll just be sorted at the bottom of the results. And you can see here how the last result stops at around the 2 hour mark. And then everybody else after there, it looks like Bob didn't have a very good race. So he just said that he didn't want to submit a time for it. But yeah, there's different customizable options that you want here. And that's just something that you want to go over with your timer, what you want to have your leaderboard actually look like to make sure you set it up properly from the start, because you don't want half people to say, no, I didn't do a time, and then change your mind and say, hey, well, we need everybody sorted by time and things like that. Another cool feature that we have is we don't require you to be logged in. So if you're on your phone, you can just quickly go to the results page and just look yourself up, and then you just confirm that you have access to post to that registration by either the email or the last 4 digits of the phone number. Participants do have the ability to lock their result submission, which then would require them to log in to do so. And again, if somebody has set their RunSignup profile to be anonymous because they don't want to show up on public lists, then they actually do have to log in order to submit results, because it won't find them when they go to do the participant tracking, since they're anonymous. But there is a link underneath there that says, hey, if you're anonymous, click here, and that'll allow them to submit results. So those are just kind of the common trip ups that we see from participants. So now that we've kind of gone through some of the settings to combine and settings to separate, let's kind of talk about how you would kind of message a hybrid event. And you definitely want to use this as an advantage for your kickoff for 2021. You want to shout it from the rooftops. This is how you get on the calendar first. And again, Bob went over how to get on the calendar to kind of maybe have a chance at some extra market share, because you're the first race in the specific weekend of the month of your race. And you can also get that on your timer's calendar to make sure that you have somebody to handle the in-person event for you properly. So some messaging basics. Again, your primary goal is to make runners feel comfortable that the race will happen in some form or capacity. And so being transparent and clear that you've kind of thought through scenario A, B, and C, and that way you're prepared to change in the course of if something happens. So that's why we recommend going hybrid from the start. Allows the maximum flexibility for people in your race. Like, share what you're doing to be a safe event. Marketing in this new environment is a lot different. It's not just like, hey, you're going to have the most fun. It's like, we're also very responsible. You're going to have a good time, and you're going to have a safe and healthy race. And remind people about those flexible options. Create an FAQ page for stuff, especially if these are new features to your participants. You can link to our help guides, or you can kind of go through the registration process, screenshot your own kind of help guides to brand it to your charity or to your race, a logo. And definitely thank your runners for their support. And they'll definitely thank you for the opportunity. I don't know how many messages that we've seen from races share the support of their participants, or do a montage video of the photos that people have uploaded. And it's a very powerful thing as a final thank you to their runners that came out to the race, definitely. And so I'm sure everybody's probably sick of virtual. Maybe launching as hybrid is a little bit different of a hybrid event or something like that. But people are still signing up for virtual races, and it just takes a little bit of framing to make virtual kind of feel new or offer a different type of challenge. We saw everybody running across the state like when things first came out, but now you can come up with different options. Race from home, sleep in for our charity. I definitely like the sleep in for the cause option. That's one I've kind of pitched for a while. We have the Race Joy Run Anywhere. So it's just kind of a different messaging mantra that you can kind of give out to kind of get people excited about it, especially if you haven't offered the Race Joy features and before, or any of these features that we covered. You actually can kind of enhance the experience through a challenge and having gamification and things like that. So come up with a pitch for the hybrid event, and you'll see success from there. So I had a lot to get through, and I tried to cover it as quickly as I could. Do we have any questions, or do we have time for any questions?
I wanted to add just one thing before we jump to the questions. One of the greatest things about the platform, and it's a question I get probably every week, is like, how does this look? And so one of the best things about it is that the platform's fluid and live at this, like, all the same time. So if you're feeling a little intimidated by some of the features, or you're not sure, you can set it up. And as a race director, you can register yourself, you can test it, you can go through the whole process before you even open it up to the public. And that's one of the best ways to kind of see the front end and to feel comfortable with what you're doing.
Absolutely, and that ensures that you're collecting all the information right from the start as well. So great point, Sean.
We'll do one or two questions. I don't want to keep people too long. It's nice to have a little bit of a break before the next session starts. I think we've gotten through most of them, but if we miss any questions, I promise we're going to read all of these later as well and make sure we got back to everyone. We have a couple of different questions about events that have more than one in-person location. Either it's a triathlon or they have multiple defined courses. Is there a way to put directions to more than one location? Start location.
Yeah, the integrated map, I'm not sure. Yeah, there's a slide here. It's only going to be one actual map to like one direction. So if you've kind of combined like multiple locations into one overall race ID on RunSignup, you might want to just hide the directions map. That is an option there, and then create a custom section with either links to your own maps, or you can put images with directions if you have multiple locations and it's all combined within the same race ID. That would be my suggestion, since you can only have the one integrated map, and it's a Google map, so make sure that that address that you're typing in is also found on Google, because that's what's going to pull up on here. But if you have multiple different ones, hide the directions on the race page. That's in the race wizard on step 5, and then you can create a custom section with overall arching tab of directions, and then you can have sub tabs for each location with directions to it. So that's what I would recommend doing.
Do one more. If you have a virtual race that has, is just a 5K that's only virtual, there isn't an in-person 5K, but there are multiple locations, multiple courses for that 5K, would you still separate out the virtual results as, 5K in the hills, 5K in the park, or would you combine them then at that point?
Me personally, from like having my timer experience, I would still separate them, because you can have a course, it's course record. Running in high school and stuff, like you always ran the 5K, but it's a different course, so it's a different course record. And people, obviously the weather and things like that change, but I would separate them just from, keeping things tried and true. But it's up to you to do that. For Race Joy, they would have to be separate anyway. And so if you're doing that, otherwise, if it's a race anywhere and you're combining them into that, so separating is going to be the key for that.
I think we're gonna close it out right at 3. If you guys are sticking around until 3:30, we have 2 sessions at 3:30 that will be going on at the same time. Check your emails, or they're all up on the event website as well. Those are both going to be on Zoom because we should be in a little bit smaller groups then. It's a little bit of an easier process to sign in then. The 2 different sessions there is one on fundraising event options that can be virtual, hybrid, or socially distant. And then the other one will be on race day best policies for some hybrid events. So things like start line setup, finish line setup, how you want to work with the flow of runners. If you are interested in both of those, don't worry, we will send out all of the recordings tomorrow. So attend the one you want to now, and you can watch the other one later. We'll see you back in half an hour.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you.